All right. What's good, everybody? Joe Average Brother. What's good, Shattered Stars? And welcome again to another episode here on the Chaos Rain channel. If you are new to the channel, thank you. Welcome to the channel, like always. And those that will be I guess, new subscribers to the channel, welcome. But give y'all the rundown. Always, as you come to the channel and you're new to the channel, or you see the channel, make sure you hit the red button, the top bell, the top notification bell, where you know there's live streams and uploads here on the Chaos Rain channel. Also, you can now follow me on Twitter at Chaos Rain 7. I'm trying to build Twitter up a little bit, as you notice. And you can now add me as a friend on Facebook. I go by name Eric Rain on Facebook. And I also have a Discord service on the About section as well. So those are the links. And let me check some things, some last minute things before I get started. Let me check this. I'm probably gonna look at this. I'm just looking at some things, guys. Yeah, I'm looking at some things right now. All right. Okay, I'm just going through the last few look around. No, not that. I normally do this, guys, just to let everybody know that I'm alive. So don't take it personal, because these are looks like last notifications. And okay. Oh, damn it. I did something wrong. Delete that. Let me try that again. All right, it should go now. Perfect. And one more message, and we should all be all set. And there we go. What's this? Oh, that's disturbing. All right. Oh, I see you, Queen. Thank you, Chanel Shalom. Queen's Virtue. And like always, subscribe to Queen of Virtue. She's almost at 1K. So help the sister out, get her to 1K. And me and her might do something nice and special on the Cast Rain channel. So subscribe to her channel as well. All right, let us begin. What is the title for today's stream, if you like to know or ask? As in the title, 1.2 million kids, where they came from. Now, this right here is going to be more of a look. We're going to probably look at 1 or 2 articles per se. I might do some reading here and there, that may be interesting or that boring stuff to most people. But nonetheless, this is going to be something that has to be examined. Now, I've noticed with Igmore and Mr. Sperling, they've done streams on this about these rise of unknown babies that's coming amongst our community, the Black community especially. And what we know is, because we always hear the notion that 50% of Black men don't have kids. Up until they get to a little older, they start having kids, but it's not the majority in this community, unfortunately. Because, if you go around most dudes that have kids, they might have it older, and 9 10 times they might just have 1 and maybe 2. But does it add up to the equation of majority of Black men having all the kids? Not really. Because a lot of men are having kids like that, unfortunately, especially in America. But there's a known fact there are a lot more women not only have more sex, but their sex equals children, which is not really much talked about in this community, unfortunately. And what looks like some interesting data that's been found and circulating, that it looks like the lovely ladies are having not just regular kids, but they're having kids outside this community from other groups of men. I find that very interesting. I didn't want to believe it per se, because we all know, most women don't really swirl like that. Where they're swirling will lead to children like that in numbers. But now with some information, we're going to have to examine this and see what's been said out here in the data. And let's be honest, here on the Chaos Rain channel, I focus on the data and statistics per se, especially when it deals with us as men and women. If I do I talk about for a look and try to get an overall view about it and get my perspective on it, unfortunately. But overall, when we look at us as a community right now, it was never good and it's not going to get any better anytime soon because we refuse to do what's better and what's right for us as people, responsibly for the men and women's side. And I think because we like to live in a disorderly fashion, the only thing you will have at the day and what will result is in chaos, real chaos. And there has to be someone to restore the order in which the world you live in today. Keep that in mind. So no further ado, let's look at some of these articles. And make sure you like the stream, share the stream as well. Where is the article? One thing we're going to look at is something dealing with the CDC. And you know, a lot of people like to talk about the stupid CDC, right? So let's look at this. And, you know, I might drop the link for those who want to, you know, give their commentary. Where is the CDC? Hold on, guys. I'm trying to find the CDC. Okay. Oh, it's not popping up. All right, let me do this. Cancel. I got to pull it up here because it will not show up. Let me try this again. Where is it? Okay. Let me see how long this is. This is like 17 pages. I'm going to read all 17 pages, maybe. We shall see. Okay, I found it. So let's try this again. And I might leave it here as the description for y'all to look and examine for yourselves. And let me look at my end, see if I'm showing. Looks like I'm showing good. I'm going to remove this thumbnail. I'm going to zoom in. Oh. I'm looking at both sides of my so that way y'all guys could see it. And it looks like y'all could see it. Okay, so let's look at this. It says here, the National Health Statistic reports fertility of men and women ages 15 through 44. In the United States, the National Survey of Family Growth is from 2011 through 2015. Now, you got to understand, we're now 2022. And obviously, depending on how these things are compiled, this study was done every 4 years. And my math is right. 4 years. And now we're actually past due of the data statistics. And right now, this shows July 11, 2018. So this is somewhat of the recent updates or somewhat from the last 3 to 4 years now. But nonetheless, we could examine it. It says mostly they don't update their things till years later. The abstract. And as we follow through, objectively, the report presents national estimates of selected fertility measures for men and women ages 15 through 44. And we know 15 through 44, if our math is right, 15, 10, 20, 29 years. That's where they look at the breakdown from 15 to 44, roughly 29 years. And we all know if it's applied to women, that is where, you know, they deal with the fertility on a range, possibly, or men. But nonetheless, that's the data they look through, 15 for 44. Okay. Of the United States in 2011 through 2015, based on the data from the National Survey of Family Growth, estimates for 2011 and 2015 are compared with those from 2006 and 2010, roughly 4 years. So they split from 4 years. The methods of the data were collected through an in-person interview of a national representative sample of the household population aged 15 from 44. The United States from September 2011 through September 2015 and 2011 through 2015, sample compares of 2,062 respondents ages from 15 through 44, including 9,321 men and 11,300 women. Now, as y'all know, this is like a very large gap. And only they got 20K responders. Now, y'all know that when they look at data statistics, they don't get like half the population in sample size to get a real accurate data. They get like less than 1 or 2% of that population. And we all know in America, especially, we are roughly over 330 something million. And the only small sample size they get is under 250,000 people. And they base that as the overall of the population of people. Ain't that strange? Ain't that funny? But, that's just me. I'm going to keep going. Men fertility measures in the reports include have ever had a biological child, number of children born alive, timing of the first child, and birth spacing. Results, most estimate of fertile measures for men and women ages 15 through 44. Same year, 2011 to 2015, were similar to those reported in 2006 and 2010. For 2011 to 2015, 85% of women have given birth and 80.4% of men had fathered a child by the age of 40 and 44 on average. Okay. Women had 1.2 biological children and men had fathered 0.9 children. Okay. The mean gets at the firstborn or the first birth was 23 years old for a woman and 25 years old for men. Among women, 31.2% of the first births occur during the teens years, and 54.5% occurs during the age of 20 through 29. So right here, and you gotta understand, teen years at that time for the last 20 or more years, and I can't really pull up data, but I can remember usually the average age for first-time mothers up until around the 2000s was 17.9 years of age, roughly almost 18. And as 2000s ended, going on 2010 era, 2010 from 2019, that age increased when the first-time mother from roughly 17.9 to 26.7 or around 27 point something. So as y'all know, is every decade, the age gap when a woman has first-time child starts to increase. So that means when they talk about birth rates, it actually has gone down because women are not having births around 18 years old like that 20 years ago. And there's reasons why that is. And when I go into deeps why that is. Let's keep going. All right, where am I? Okay. And during the age 20 through 29 among men, 13.8% of the first birth occurs during the teen years, and 63.1% occurs during age 20 through 29. In 2011 and 2015, nearly 1/3 of women ages 15 through 44 with a birth had only had one birth at the time of interview. About 1/3 had a second birth within 36 months, and a third or 1/3 had a second birth more than 36 months after their first birth. So 36 months, roughly, they have another child after every 2 years. Compared, well, actually, it's 2. Actually, it might be 3 years because there are 12 months out of a year. So you do 12, 12, 12. That's 3 years. So we look at 3.5 years, if I'm right. Let's keep going. Estimates of fertility measures different by age, material, or cohabitating status, education, household, income, relatives to the federal poverty level, and Hispanic origin and race. And there's keywords here. We're not going to go into that. And let's keep going. And decreased age in 2015. 1. The birth rate, number of births per 1,000 females in a specific age group declines for teenagers aged 15 through 19 and those ages from 20 to 24, and the rate increased for women ages 30 to 39 and 40 through 44. The mean number of children born declined from 3 children per woman in 1976 to 2 children per woman in 2012. So, since I want you to follow me here, let me take a sip of this. So, since 1976, now roughly 46 years, most Americans, on the average, when women had around the 70s, roughly 3 children. Up to 2010 era, it started to decrease to 2, which I did not know that. So we can say, we can conclude when we talks about our community, it's obviously depending on the situation that most women find themselves in. They were going to have maybe more than one child by either one man or multiple men of that time. Now, this is what they're based by the data. They're not really based on the race, which everything should be analyzed and subjugized to look at overall from Black, Hispanic, and white. And Hispanic and white are actually white. They're not really separate race, but they like to separate them for whatever reasons. To know what is the average, we will know that because they look at the overall past 46 years. That's what I'm getting at. But let's keep going. Fertility research in the United States has focused on various topics, including characteristics of the who have children, 3 to 4, how many children they have, 2, 3, 5, timing of the childbearing, abstinence, childbearing, late childbearing, 2, 6, 7, and spacing of births, 8. Having a child at an early age, particularly in the teen years, has been associated with negative social, economic, and health consequence for the young woman and her child, 9 through 13. And it is estimated that in 2015 alone, the United States saved about $4 billion as a result of efforts to preventing unintended births among teenagers, 14. And on the other hand, later childbearing in association with decline in U.S. total fertility rates, 15. In 1970, the birth rate among women ages 20 to 24 was 168 births per 1,000 women, compared with 76.8 births per 1,000 women in 2015. And that is 1 through 16. The gap in the birth rate has narrowed for women in their 20s compared with women in their 30s. And most recent, there has been a higher rates of childbearing among women in their 30s than women in their 20s. For example, in 2016, the birth rate for women ages 20 through 24 reaches a record low at 73.8 birth rates per 1,000 women, while the birth rates for women ages 30 through 34 was at the highest rate since 1964 at 102.7 births per 1,000 women. 17. Let me pause. And what's good to everybody in chat? Thank you. Like the stream and share the stream. What you're seeing is, from what it is revealed, that women have taken a break from giving birth in their 20s. Is it all women? I don't think so. But just enough have not really given birth around their 20s. The ones that I will assume, and this is my assumption, that either gone to school and work a job and was, being very loose with their yonis. And was very careful not to get knocked up if they're in their 20s. But as they turn 30, women especially, That's when you notice they start taking it serious and know that they gotta start having these kids and knock them out the way, which roughly is usually two children right now as a stance from the last decade. But we all know moving forward in this new decade, the 2020 era, it is projected, and this is what they say they project, that there's going to be maybe one child a woman's going to have, and some might not even have children at all. That's something that to examine. No, it's a good question you ask that question. Women, once they turn 30, from what is said here, they take it a little serious to start to, I guess, get knocked up by men. Y'all know a few women, few content creator or women generally that start having children or start to take it serious and say, I gotta get this kid before I hit that so-called high risk pregnancy and that serious wall stage at 35. That's what I'm implying. Now, you're not gonna find every woman in their 30s. Now, if you know in your resident city, if you have the conversation, if they're being honest, when they had their kid and what age. And most people are not gonna ask these questions to women because nowadays, that'd be butting people's business. But we can go by what is said here that that's the year or that's the age where a lot of women start taking serious and start to rush to have their children. I hope that answers the question, Joe Average Brother. All right, let's keep going. In addition, spacing of births can have a significant impact on the health of the baby and the mother. Short birth spacing, defined as having a pregnancy less than 18 months after previous birth, has been associated with adverse outcomes, including what they call preterm delivery, low birth weight, congenital disorders, and poor health for the mother, including folate depletions and incomplete recoveries from the prior birth, especially for cesarean deliveries. Now, y'all know what cesarean surgery is when they cut the woman's belly. And I'll be honest with you, I know most women get scared when the doctors tell us that they can't come out normally out their pussy. But I tell ladies, be very careful. That's extra money these hospitals getting when they go through surgery, cut your belly. And it's proven evident if they do it more than 2 times, you cannot carry children no more, and they will advise that you have to tie your tubes because you go under if you have pregnant the 3rd time, you are at serious risk and you could possibly bleed out and die. Don't question me. Go look up yourself. I know some people now that told me that they had cesarean surgery more than once, and the doctor told them they cannot go through that pregnancy again. And they tell especially black women this. So when they say you could possibly die in the hospital, this is the reason why they create the environment for that to happen. Let's keep going. This report presents data on the fertility experience of men and women ages 15 to 44 in the United States using 4 years of national survey and families growth data collected during 2011 and 2015 and its updates previously published estimate using 206 to 2010 data. The selected fertility measures include have ever had a biological child, number of children born alive, timing of the first child, and birth spacing for women only. The fertility measures are described by several key demographics, characteristics including age, marital or cohabitation status, education, household, income relative to federal poverty levels, and Hispanic origins and race. Going up. The Health and Human Service Program acknowledged the response rates for 2011 through 2015 NSFG was 72.3% for the women and 69.6% for the men, ages 15 through 44. More details on sample design, fieldwork, procedures, and let's keep going now because that's repetitive. Fertility measures. This report focused on fertility measures based on questions, administrations by an interviewer to responders. And make sure okay. The report focused on fertility measures. Okay. Let me see. which is an important contribution because there are limited sources of information on fertility of men. The results present in this report are described separately for men and women because the fertility patterns of men and women are different across the life course. And it's obvious because men, all we do is bust nuts and keep pushing. As long as you're able to bust nuts and get it up, you could possibly knock up any woman, possibly. Not hard. Hell, y'all know some people, there's older men that's knock up young women every day, and it's not being talked about, but it is out here and it does exist, unfortunately. Let's keep going. Let's see. The average age at first birth is younger for women compared with men. So compares between men and women in the same age group would show differently solely for this reason. Number 3, although whether the patterns of difference are similar for men and women, a systematic comparison of the fertility of men and women is not focused on reports. The 4 fertility measures covered include ever had a biological child, the percentage of women who had a biological child, the percentage of men who have fathered a child, the number of children born alive, the percentage distribution of the number of children born alive to women, and the percentage distribution of the number of children fathered by men. Timing of first birth, the percentage distribution of ages at the first birth for men and women, the probability of a first birth by a selected age for men and women, birth spacing for women with an less one child, number of months from first birth to second birth, or percentage with no second birth at the time of this interview. On a ramble. And there's a selection demographic variables. The fertility measures presented in this report are shown with respect to several key demographics, characteristics, including age, material, cohabitation status, education, attainment, household income relative to federal poverty levels, Hispanic origin, and race. With the exception of age and material status at the first birth, and that's in Table 6, all variable reflections and response only status at the time of interview. Educational attainment is shown only for responders ages 22 through 44. That's a generation, 20 years. Because many of those ages, 15 through 21, are still attending school. Obviously, some are not only attending school, they attend high school and possibly college or trade, depending if some of them go to college. Household incomes related to the federal poverty level shows at the responder household income and percentage of federal poverty levels accounts for the numbers of household members is shown for respondents ages 20 through 44 because of the concerns about young residents' ability to accurately report on their household income. The definition of Hispanic origin and race used in this report takes into account the reporting of more than one race in accordance with the 1997 guidelines from the Office of Management and Budget. And we go scroll down. Let's keep going. While showing separate data from respond reports, more than one race are included in the total. Hispanic residents, regardless of their racial identification, are shown separately and further categorized by their native status. I see you, Snuggles. Statistical analysis. All estimates in the report are weighed to represent the approximate 61 million men and 61 million women, ages 15 through 44, in the household population of the United States. Software version, blah, 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 going down. The user produced weight percentage. Okay, let's keep going now. Let me skip through this and see what else is in there. Yeah, we can keep going because it's going to go to the data. In addition, PROC life tests using Table 5 is the calculation probability of the first birth using life table methodology. These probabilities represent the exceptions proportion of individuals who have had a first birth by a certain age. assuming the current age, specifically from the first birth rates, applies. The future birth cohorts probabilities were estimated based on retrospect reports of the age at first birth and are shown for these age 18, 20, 25, 30, 35, and 40. And the reports probability are described as percentage such as the percentage of women who have had a first birth by age 18. Now, mind you, they said usually birthing age for women is 15 up to, I think, 44, if y'all remember. And yes, there are some young girls out there still today that's giving birth at age 15, but it's not a large percentage that we're like to assume in this modern era we're in today. Don't get it twisted. Let's go down. Illustration information beyond the distribution of ages at first birth by showing the cumulative probability of having a first birth by specific age. Overall difference in fertility measures by demographic characteristics were evaluated using surveys adjusted Wad chi-square test. Significance of difference between any two estimates was different by standards two tails tests at 0.5 level using point estimate and their standard error, a weight least squared regression methods was used to test for linear trends across age, education, household income terms such as increase and decrease or higher and lower, indicating there was a statistical significance difference between the two estimates when statistics compare but not demonstrate a statistically significant difference. Terms such as similar or no different were used. Now, let me pause. What's the purpose of reading this section? Because when I look at the data, it's supposed to give me a good understanding what I'm looking at. Now, I know some people took statistics rather in high school or college, and they teach you certain methods or understand what data or statistics for. If anybody took a class, I have years ago. And usually when we look at articles, the people that compiled this article and the data, they're giving you a background. So when you look at the numbers, you get a more clear understanding what they're define what is in regards to pie chart, line chart, whatever. Keep that in mind when you do read this article yourself, which will be in the description. Let's keep going. In this report, data presentation standards for proportion are based on the minimum, what they call denominatory sample size, and on the absolute and relative width of confidence interval calculation using a Corn-Garboard approach, modified by Klopper-Parson. For complete survey, all estimate procedures meet by the HCHS guidelines. When the percentage of other statistics is not shown for this reason, the table contains a what they call asterisk significance that the statistics does not meet standard of reliability or precision. The report also compares selected measures of fertility in men and women in the United States during 2006 and 2010. Let's go down. And we're looking. All right. From 2011 to 2015, statements describe increase and decrease between 2 times the points do not necessarily indicate a linear trend. The results presented in this report are descriptive and do not attempt to demonstrate cause and effect relationships. Differing age distributions may explain some of the difference shown in fertility measures across education, marital status, household income relative to the federal poverty level and Hispanic origins and race. For example, non-Hispanic white women have fewer children on average, which may in part be explained by ages if Hispanics and non-Hispanic blacks women have a younger age distribution than non-Hispanic white women, and non-Hispanic white women have children at older ages. Interesting. The difference in other characteristics such as households' income relative to the federal poverty level across marital status may also account for some of the difference seems infertility measured by marital status. A full multivariable analysis in those fertility outcomes that control for different across group and standardized across groups by other characteristics such as age or household income relative to the federal poverty level is beyond the scope of this report. And there's the results. Eric had a biological child, and it shows percentage of men and women who had ever had a biological child by selected demographic characteristics in 2011 and 2015. 54.9% of the women and 43.8% of men ages 15 through 44 had ever had a child, which was similar to their respective percentage from 2006 and 2010. And as you know, the age gap goes on to say again from what I read earlier, which I'm not going to read again. Let's go up. Oh, this one right here is a little interesting. This I never came across. Let me read this. Among both men and women, the percentage who had ever had a biological child was higher for individuals with a low level of education. For example, 80.7% of women with a high school diploma or GED had ever had a child, compared with 53.8% of women with a bachelor's degree or higher. Looking at household income relative to federal poverty level, a higher percentage of women with household incomes below 150% of the federal poverty level had ever had a biological child, versus 75%, compared with women whose household income were 300% or more than federal poverty level, 54%. A similar pattern was observed among men. Among Hispanic men and women, looking at a difference by nativity, a higher percentage of those born outside the United States had ever had a biological child, which is 73.7% of men and 79.3% of women, compared with those born in the United States. 38.4% of men and 54% of women. Okay. A higher percentage of Hispanic women, regardless of nativity, had ever had a biological child is 62.1%, compared with non-Hispanic white men, 53%, non-Hispanic black, 57.1%, and non-Hispanic Asian, 48.9%, and women. And the percentage of Hispanic men, regardless of nativity, who had ever had a child is roughly 49.8%, was higher than the non-Hispanic white, which is 42.3%. Keep that in mind. Let me highlight that, because something's supposed to correlate as I go further in this document. Hold on, guys. I think something cut off. All right, I'm good. All right, I don't know why it cut off. Let's keep going. Non-Hispanic Asian, 35.6% of men, was similar to percentage for non-Hispanic black men, which is 46.6%. The percentage were similar for non-Hispanic blacks and non-Hispanic whites, which is roughly Hispanic, non-Hispanic black, 46.6%, and non-Hispanic white, 42.3%. And I hope y'all know the difference between non-black and non-white. I hope y'all know that. Yeah, thank you. Let's go down. The number of children ever born. This is table 2. What I read you was table 1. Table 2 shows the percentage distribution of means numbers of children born to women ages 15 through 44 by selective demographic characteristics. The mean number of children decreased from 1.3 children in 2006 to 2010 to 1.2 children in 2011 and 2015. There were no significant difference in distribution of the number of children born in 2006 through 2010. In 2011 through 2015, in 2011 and 2015, 45.1% of women had not had a biological child. Okay. Now this is the demographic pictures, what was read. Women, what they call Hispanic native born, Hispanic foreign born, this is their percentage. Hispanics, 60%, non-Hispanic white, single race. So this is not a white man, it's probably like a brown or black man. 53%. Non-Hispanic black single race man, which is actually a white man, mostly, has 57% more children than the black man up here. The black man that is Hispanic descent only has 53%. But you look at the white Hispanic male, the white one, has 57% more kids. And now the non-Hispanic Asian single race, which is really I think Asian man, 48%. Actually 49% actually. Now, those I'm sorry. Oh, my fault. That's the women. My fault. These are women. What I read to in red is the women portion. My fault. So it looks like the non-Hispanic white, which is mostly a sister, she only has 53% of the children, percentage-wise. And what they call the white woman, or the non-black or non-Hispanic black single race. And mind, this is what I'm getting off, people. This is what I see it as. Now let's go for the men. Men, Hispanic native born, 38.4%. Hispanic foreign born, 63.7%. So this person that's not from the United States has a lot of children, from percentage-wise. The Hispanics, it shows here 49.8%. Non-Hispanic white single race, 42. Non-Hispanic black single, 46. And non-Hispanic Asian, 35. And we go down. And it's more of a breakdown from what I'm getting at. And it shows here the percentage here. Where should I start? No, it's hard to follow this, but we'll start from top. Not had a child by 49.6% compared with Hispanic women born outside the United States is 20-something%. A lower percentage of Hispanic women, 37.9%, yep, and had not had a child compared with the non-Hispanic white, which is 47%, non-Hispanic black, 42.9%, and non-Hispanic Asian, 51% of the women. Table 3, which, let me see what table, this one I'm looking at. This looks like this could be table 1. Let me see, what's table 3? Table 3, it shows percentage distribution of means numbers of children fathered by men ages 15 through 44 by selected demographics characteristic. The mean number of children fathered by men in 2000 and 2015 is 0.9, which is unchanged from 2006 and 2010. 2011 2015, 56.2% of men had not fathered a biological child, okay, and 15.6% had fathered one biological child. 16.2% had fathered 2 children, 8.1%, and had fathered 3 children, is roughly 3.9%. Had fathered 4 or more children. And similar percentage distribution of numbers of biological children fathered by men occurs from 2006 to 2010. And okay. All right, let's look at here. In 2011, the majority of women ages 15 through 24 had not had a biological child at 82.9%, and 15% of women ages 40 through 44 had not had a child. Okay. The highest mean number of children ever born was reported by formerly married women from 2.1, followed by current married 1.8, and current cohabiting 1.2 women. Formerly married women were more likely to have 4 or more children by 13.9%, compared with current married, which is 8.4%, and currently cohabiting with 7.2% women. Women with no high school diploma or GED had the higher average number of children, which is 2.6, which is, if you look at 2.6, we could say roughly 3 children on average without a high school diploma or GED. And with women with higher levels of education, it drops to 1.0 for 1.9, roughly almost 2 or 2 children. In addition, nearly 1 in 4 women with less than a high school diploma have had 4 or more children, 23.5%, which is more than twice the percentage of any other educational group. Which makes sense, because when you're not, if you're a woman and you're not going for any real higher education, and we're not talking about just regular bachelor's degree, we're talking about like high-end education, like, like maybe a doctor, lawyer, scientist, engineer, maybe those are more higher one educations. All the other ones, to me, are a little bit more lower education on the average. And I know people don't like that, but that's what it is. And the reason why I say is because, let's be honest, college is expensive, people. And most people that got these degrees overall are, depending which one you get, is considered obsolete in today's world, because we live in more a technical age where machinery and automation now could fulfill the same tasks with less people. That's something I want people to think about. Yeah, somewhere around 7% shatter. But let's keep going. Women ages 20 through 44 living in households with income of 300%, which I read again, and I'm not going to read that again. It shows here. Y'all can see that. Hold on. Yeah, they do show the data for women that are quote unquote educated. They have less children. It drops from 2.6 to roughly almost 1 point something to 1.9 to roughly under 2. So when women that got, like, say, a bachelor's degree in any education or just bachelor's in general, it does drop, which makes sense, because once you get a degree and you're in the workforce, you're going to be most likely going to be having fun. You'll probably make your own money. You're not going to be thinking of having children while, I guess, having your degree and going in the workforce, if you're a woman, on the average. That's how it works. You get it? I hope you got that. Now it says here, this is an interesting thing right here. Where am I? When compared different by native, a higher percentage of U.S. born Hispanics women had. Oh, I read that already. Sorry. So let's go down. We're gonna look at this one. In 2011 through 2015, the majority of men ages 15 through 24 had not had a biological child, from 92.4%. But age 40 and 44, 19.6% had not had a child. So the older you get, from what I'm looking, the less likely you're going to have a child is pretty much. No, actually, numbers are kind of low. And there are some men that are having children now later, some beyond 35 years of age. Now, depending how much children a man will have once he's 40 is not determined from what I'm seeing yet. but I know they got something there for that. As I keep going down. Let's keep going now. Current married men report that the highest mean number of children, which is roughly 1.7, followed by the formal married to 1.4, and currently cohabitating by 1.2 men. High percentage of currently married men father 4 or more biological children, which is 7.5%, compared with current cohabitation, which is 5.2%, and never married, 0.3. So if you're never married, most likely you might be 3% possibly. And there's the data of diplomas, of high school diploma, and ones with or without it, and have bachelor's degree is a light color. So you see right here, the higher the education the person get, the more or less children they have, which is on the mark. As you can see, the color, the light pink. But ones with a high school diploma, it kind of, or without high school diploma, this is where you see the 2.6. From women have roughly over 3 kids without no high school diploma GD. Men without no high school diploma only has roughly 2. And I'm not sure if y'all guys know anybody that don't have a GED or high school diploma have 2 kids right now, from what they're shown. And this is like old data. This is like data from like 7 years ago, but still relevant today because the data will probably update when they reveal more data on this. Let's keep going down. And it's going more depth from what I've read before. And it's a time of birth, table 4, which we're not going to go into because it probably seemed like it's more repetitive from when looking at the numbers. All right. Let's look at this one. Wait, let me go down. Oh, that's it. It's only pure data. All right. So we can continue reading and look at the data because this is not a long article from what I'm looking at now. All right, let's keep going up. We're going to look at this one. The probability of first birth, selected age, women, and etc. Now, what we're seeing here, an increase slightly from men, 76%, and compared with 78% from the table. And before I do that, let me I forgot one thing. I forgot one thing, guys. All right. Let me go back. Women and men with lower levels of education were more likely to have had a child by age 20 than those with higher level education. For example, 50% of women who did not graduate from high school had had a birth by age of 20, compared with 3% of those who had at least a college degree. Let me see what's going on. Come here and sound effects. What's going on here? That's a distraction. 1 second, guys. I'm trying to see where. Okay. Never mind. Let me close one of these windows. All right. Let's check something, guys. I'm just checking if I continue. Check something. All right, I'm gonna continue now. All right, good. Okay. Women currently living in households with income less than 150%, which is read before, of the federal poverty level, were more likely to have had birth by age 20, and 33% compare with women living with households income of 300% of the federal poverty level and higher, which roughly is a 7%. Among men, those currently living with the highest household income relative to federal poverty level were less likely to have fathered a child by age 20, which obviously makes sense because most men, even last 20 or more years, the age at that time for most men, if I can remember, is roughly 25 years of age. But we all know now that that age is really obsolete now in the early parts of the 21st century. To now, it's like roughly late 30s, maybe mid to late 30s. Could be wrong. Well, let's keep going. And let's be honest. I always hear about these dudes talking about it's mostly the dudes that's 18% having most of the majority kids in the so-called black community. But we never put an equation to these 8% men. Do these 8% of men have a high school diploma and greater? That's something to really examine because last time I checked, people that don't continue the education have a higher chance of having children, which makes sense. Now, is all black men uneducated have more children? No, because most men, unfortunately, they're having them really later in life as a whole. So when people tell me I said a whole lot of black men are not educated out here, I gotta question their logic. I gotta really question it now after going through this article. It's something that y'all guys gotta start thinking about. Don't you agree? Let's keep going. It's at age 20, 4%. Compared with those with the lowest household income relating to the federal poverty level at 12%. There were a significant difference by Hispanic origin race in the probability of having had a first birth at age 20, Hispanic 28%, and non-Hispanic blacks 28%. Women had a higher probability of having had a first birth by age 20. Following the non-Hispanic white 14% and non-Hispanic Asian 4%. Women that is non-Hispanic black men is 12%. So the black man, or he is the non-Hispanic black man. And sometimes it gets confusion. He's man. He's only 12%. But that's just me. Going up, most likely to have had a first birth by age 20, followed by Hispanics 9%, non-Hispanics, whites 5%, and non-Hispanic Asians less than 1%. U.S.-born Hispanic men 8%, and women 27% were less likely to have had a first birth by age 20 than Hispanic men and women born outside of the United States at 10% and 30% respectively. And the birthing spaces was really what you're talking about, the gaps between having children. Based on women's age 15 from 44 from 2011 to 2015 who had at least one birth in their lifetime show variations in birth spacing or birth intervals between their first and second birth, if any, at the time of interview by selected characteristics. The distribution of birth spacing in 2011 for 2015 is similar to that in 2006 and 2010. In 2011, 2015, nearly 1/3 of women ages 15 through 44 in the United States with a birth had only one birth, 31.7%. About 1/3 of women had their second birth within 36 months of the first birth, 22.8% within 26 months, and 12.7% within 27 through 36 months. About 1/3 of women had a second birth more than 3 years after their first birth, which is roughly 36 months, if y'all remember. 22.6% at 49 or more months, which is more than, that's probably another extra 4 years, maybe. The highest percent of women in older age groups at the time of their first birth did not have a second birth. For example, 50.3% of women ages 30 through 44 or at the time of their first birth did not had or have a second birth, compared with 31.2% of women ages 20 through 24. Let's read that again. Let's look at that again. Let's read that again. The first birth did not have a second birth, for example, at 50% of women ages 30 through 44 at the time of their first birth, but did not have a second birth, compared with 31.2% of women ages 20 through 24. And the highest percent of women under the age of 20 at the time of their first birth had a second birth within 26 months of the first birth, which is 26.1%. So that's roughly over 2 years. Compared with women ages 20 through 24, it is roughly 21.3% of second birth, or actually first birth. And the percentage of women who had a second birth is 49 months later, which is a whopping 4.5 years or more after their first birth decrease as their age at first birth increase. For example, 29.1% of women under the age of 20 at the time of their first birth had a second birth at 49 months, 4.5 years, or later after their first birth, compared with 7.8% of women ages 30 through 44. The percentage of women who had a second birth within 26 months among those who were married are 24.7%, or cohabitate at 23.4% at the time of their first birth, were higher than the percentage of women who were formerly married at 14.2%, or never married at 18.8%. So ones that's not married going to have, well, out of wedlock, that's what they call it when you're not married. So you're going to have kids before you're married. That's obvious. That's the norm in Western culture, if you want to keep real. The highest percentage of women who had never been married at that time of their first birth had a birth interval of over 4 years or more months. 27.9%, compared with women who were married at 19.9%, roughly 20%, or actually 20%, or cohabitating at 22.4% at the time of their first birth. The percentage of women without a high school diploma, GED, etc., had second births within 2 years of their first birth, which is roughly 30%, was similar to percentage of women with a high school diploma or GED at 25.1%. Not much difference, only almost an extra 5% increase. The percentage of women with some college but no bachelor's degree who had a second birth within 2 years of their first birth is roughly 20%, 19.8%. Was similar to the percentage of the women with a bachelor's degree or higher at 21.6%. So there's no difference when they give birth the second time, with or without a bachelor's or a college degree. And the percentage of women with a high school diploma and GED who had a second birth within 2 years of their first birth is same, roughly closely over 25%. Was similar to percentage for women with a bachelor's degree, roughly 21.6%. So it decreased a little, but is only 3 points down, or 2.5 points down percentage. About 1 in 7 women with a bachelor's degree or higher had a birth interval of 4 years or 4.5 years at 15.4%, compared with about 1 in 4 women in other educations of 25.4 through 27.8%. And it goes on and on and on. And I'm just scanning through this because it looks like it sounds repetitive, and this could be boring for those that will listen, but it's education nonetheless. Y'all gotta look at it for yourself. And we could probably go, let's see, let me see what the summary is. All right. Let's look at the summary of all this. I'm not going to read the whole summary. I'm just going to read snippets. This report presents a selective fertility indicator for men and women ages 15 to 44. In the United States, based on 2011 and 2015 NSFG data, measures of fertility include having had a biological children, the numbers of biological children, ages at first child birth, and birth intervals for women with at least one child, and the fertility experience of men and women different across various characteristics, including education, household income relatively to federal poverty level, and Hispanic origins and race. To overall results report for 2000 and 2015 are generally similar to those based on 2006 and 2010. As you know, the percentage goes on, women and men, which is roughly 59% for women and 43% of men ages 15 to 44. Now, obviously, looking at this, because women do control sex last time that I've known, and normally a lot of women hate to hear this, and they say it's always about that, yeah, we control sex, but y'all guys be shoving your phallus in us. And no one takes the pussy, you're consent to the sex. That's why the percentage when it shows that you're gonna cohabitate and gonna have more children than the men. It's obvious because today with the modern women, they're very much non-selective with their, I guess, vaginas, and most dudes that they're sexually attracted to on the average, they shoot up the club and knock them up. Unfortunately, but, all right, let's looking down. Okay. All right, let's see. White women compared to Hispanic and non-Hispanic Black women. And to have a Hispanic, non-Hispanic white women had the fewest number of children. Okay, this is one thing that I've noticed that was explained by Mr. Sperling, and it's this sentence here. And like I said, y'all guys can read it for yourself, but I'll read this part. In 2011 and 2015, non-Hispanic white women had the fewest number of children and the oldest mean age at first birth compared to Hispanic women and non-Hispanic Black women. Okay. However, non-Hispanic Asian women had the highest mean age at first birth. These differences may be explained in part of difference in age structure among those different groups. The probability of having a first birth before age 20 is highest for Hispanics and non-Hispanic Black women, and lowest for non-Hispanic Asian women. Among men, probably and fathering a baby before age 20 is highest for non-Hispanic Black men, and followed by Hispanic, non-Hispanic whites, and non-Hispanic Asian men. Looking at difference by education attainment, men and women with lower levels of or education were more likely to have had births, to have had more children, and to have had their first child at young age compared to men and women with high levels of education. And mentioned early, education was measured at the time of this interview, not at all times of childbirth, and what it called by variate associated with its cross selection data like NSFG may be due partially to early childbearing, what they call certainties, addition education for young parents. And that's pretty much it. And there's a reference here. Now, right here, this is where they're comparing the percentage of numbers. And I think this is the one I was trying to look at, but usually going through the breakdown what the purpose of data is, it's supposed to give you a glimpse of not only the pie charts, bar charts, but it gives you more of a visual aspect of things. What's good, Alonzo? So now let's look at the numbers. And if y'all guys want me to open this up, press 1. Okay. Number of households, percentage standard errors, number of what they call households, standard for errors, age groups, marital cohabitation status, education, percentage of federal poverty level, Hispanic origin and race, going down. Number of children born by women ages 15 through 44, United States. I'm looking at this. Okay. Age groups, marital cohabitation status, current marriage, current cohabitation, never married. Okay. Education, etc. And this is from the father of fathers. Age groups, men, education. Not Hispanic or Latino. Hispanic or Latino. All right. White single race, 30-some percent. Black and African. Wait a minute. What is this? The total number of biological children fathered by men ages 15 through 44, United States from 2000 to 2015. Look at this right here. I'm not going to look at the age group because the age is real. I'm looking at here by the origin and race of men. Hispanic or Latino, roughly 2,908. And we look across. This shown by one kid, none, 1, 2, 3, or 4. The numbers start to slowly, if I'm right, decrease the more people, the chance of them having more than one child. It shows here native and foreign Hispanics or Latino, which are mixed or whites. It's roughly total 12,908. Native-born native-born Hispanics or Latinos that's born here, 7,009 between the age of 15 through 44. This is a number in the thousands. Non-Hispanic or Latino. This is the other race, dealing with white, black, and Asian. White single men. Roughly 34,304. That's the total. A white man that has kids. And you see the difference, fellas? They have more kids than the black man and the Asian man. And this is a data from that was 7 years so-called old. So when they talk about there's only roughly 13 or 14%, if we want to go based on, let's say, okay, let's agree that's what it is. We could see why that either we're growing as people or we're declining. But most of the men here is only 7,000. Where is it I find that most the black men, shouldn't the black men should have more children in America than white men? Since we're only 13, 14% population, but I'm looking at only 7,200 are the ones that by age 1544 have total of kids or so-called kids. And as you go across, it shows you mean by standard, and it shows you none that don't have kids by a certain age. First time have 1 kid, 2 kid, 3 kid, and possibly 4. The numbers actually decrease. Do y'all see this, guys? I'm looking at the men. I'm not gonna look at the women yet. I'm looking at the men. Now the poverty level, we could look at that, but I'm looking at this number right here because it's going by actual race now. Clear. This is clear. This is old data, but I don't see nothing that's higher than the so-called Caucasian man in this country. That's very questionable. Don't you agree? Very questionable. But let's keep going on. I just want to draw that as a hint note. I wish BJ's was up here because BJ's going to have to explain this, man. I know he did content on this. Yeah, he's going to have to explain this shit. All right. Let's go down. Age of the first childbirth for women and men, 15 for 44. And as you know, what I read earlier, this is the number of biological children fathered by men. That's fathered by men. This data right here. Now, age for first childbirth of women and men. But before I go, let me go up, make sure that I did not miss anything. I'm going to look at the women part because I missed this part and I didn't look at this. Now, we all know that women, the sisters, have more children than men, from what is shown. White and single race, roughly 30,000. Because they're quote unquote considered the majority of this country. So let's go down. And I'm looking at the numbers. All right. Age at first childbirth for women and men age is 1544. Let's look. Roughly here. Normally the education, it was depicted, but it gives you more raw data. So I can see here. Let me scroll down. Yeah. It looks like as they get around 25, the numbers actually looks like it's somewhat increased age group. If I'm looking at it, under 20 standard deviation, standard error total out of 1,000. Looks like for 15 to 24 says it either increase or decrease by 60, 30, and it goes down a little bit. But you know, let's look at this. Hispanic origin and race of first child, because that's what's saying age of first childbirth for women and men ages this age. So it's still women and men. And it shows here same number. First child, obviously, we look at Hispanics, 7,000. In total, native born in America, 3,688. Foreign born, 3,957. So there's more people that's outside the Hispanic community that's born back in the native countries, either Puerto Rico, Salvador, Argentina, Brazil, the Dominican Republic. They're going to have roughly, more children outside the country, actually. And it shows here non-Hispanic or Latino, white, single race, men and women. First child, 18,065 for men and women. This is their total. As you know, as we go down the mean and women, from what it's showing, let me make sure it's women. Yeah, this is dealing with women, sorry. Because it says here for women, my fault. So this is the women's side of things. Them having children for the first time. And remember, this is focused on the women. Childbirth, first time, first child. White single race, 18,000 for women. First child. Black African women, 4,000. Asian single race, 1,000. And it's split. Let's go down. Ages for, now this is for the men. Ages for men for the first childbirth for women and men, but this is dealing with the men because it says men. And it shows from 20, 24, 25, 20, 30. So we look at here, as older the person gets, it actually does dip down. And it dips down by the age groups. Well, actually, no. Age groups for the men. And this applies, and this only dealing with the total of men, roughly. But as you go down, when it deals with race, it gives more of a deep numbers. So as the age of the man is younger, it actually has decreased for the past decade or more. 15 for 24 is roughly 1,500. As they get older, from 25 to 29, it starts to increase from 3,000. 30 to 34, it increases to 6,000. And as they get older, to the oldest, 40 to 44, it's roughly 8,000. And that's all age groups. And as you know, from under 20, it goes more deeper in so-called percentage-wise, because it's the percentage now of things. Now, this is for men, for first-time childbirth. As you know, white men or Hispanic Latinos, which some are white, majority of them white, native born, 2,700, foreign born, 3,700. So outside their native, outside America, they have more children outside the country, inside the country, because the laws are different outside their country. And that the total for Hispanics total from this range is 6,000. Non-Hispanic Latinos. Now we're dealing with whites, blacks, and Asians. White man that has child first time, roughly in total 14,506. And it breaks down by percentage on the right side from 20 to 44. Blacks and African Americans, or blacks, Caribbeans, or blacks in general, it's actually 3,000. Now, if we go back to the ladies are 4,000. The men are 3,000. And Asians, we're not going to compare Asians because they're barely breeding like that. It's just scratching 1,000. Let's go down. Probably a first birth by selecting age for women and men age 15, 14. And this is another table. And let me see if this is the same. I think this is more of a percentage. It looks like it. Yeah, it's like a breakdown for percentage somewhat from 18, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. And men, oh, no, my fault. This is a split between men and women. So this is more of a breakdown of the percentage, as y'all can see. I'm looking at the blacks mostly. Okay. All right. So women, as they get older, they put themselves at risk if they're having first child. From looks like the data shown from 2015, which the lowest for blacks, Africans, whatever type of black person you want to call it, it starts off at 18, it is at 13%. As you go from 20, it starts to increase to 20%. Then it goes to 25, roughly more than 0.5%. 30, over 50. 35, roughly almost over 75%. And 40, if someone could have them at 40, which is not really surprised, but it's not like the norm. It is roughly 82%. Now for the men, as the men is 18 years of age, black Africans, is 4%. Once he's 20, is roughly 12% chance for first birth. 25, 37%. 30, roughly almost over 50%. 35, 7%, and roughly at 40, 83%. Okay. And obviously, when we look at the other race of people, what they consider Hispanic, which is mostly white, and white males, male and female, which actually, sorry, females, women, 13% that's Hispanic, native or foreign, 30% all across the board at age 18. It increased from 13 to 28% at 20, 25% at 59, and as you go up to 40, it's roughly a good 90% chance they're going to probably have children. That's native Hispanic, mostly white or mixed Hispanics. They have more children than everybody else because they're mixed, so-called. And when we look at whites, it's roughly 5% at 18 years of age. But as they turn 20, it increased to 14%. And at 25, for women, women, it's 14. White women, 36. And if you look at most Caucasians, because it says single white women, this is the possibly chance they will likely have children, but they have to go through process like in vitro and stuff, because Majority of white people are not having children like that, if y'all not understanding. So when you look at this percentage, you always got to keep in mind this is not really an exception of the rule of them as they get older, they might have a child. It's harder for most Caucasians. So that's something you got to keep in mind. If they're getting it at later age, they have to go through fraternity clinics and certain process to potentially conceive. And that's proven evident. And for the man, obviously, as he gets older, the same applies to him. Once he turns 30, his chance of having a child for the first time increases when he start looking to have children. And I look at as I'm looking at the men, same thing for the black man and Asian man, etc. And actually black women, obviously, same thing with the percentage. Once they turn 25 or actually 20 to 25, mostly over 25, they start thinking of having children. They do have children around 25. And roughly the benchmark now is 29% for all women across board America that has a child for the first time. So we could fall on the range of roughly 25 close to 30. You look at almost half. Possibly over 50%, possibly they're going to have kids before 30. Let's go down. The number of months for first birth to second birth of women ages 15 to 14. Now, they're talking about more than one birth. What's the high possibility percentage? And it shows here that percentage of the second birth. And this is dealing with, it's dealing with women, actually. Whites, obviously, white Hispanics, native born, the total is 7,600. Others, that's not Hispanic, but white, black, and Asian. Whites are 18%, 18,065, number in the thousands of having possible chance of having more than one child. White men still up there in numbers of by 18%. Other race, blacks, women, and white women and black women. I get mixed up because when you stare and keep looking at this, don't be fooled. You get confused sometimes. Look at the numbers. Trust me, I do, because I'm looking at it now. But now, when you look at it, take your time, look at this, because sometimes look at what is presenting the table and look at it very clearly, because you will get confused. But this is the women. This is their numbers of when they have high possibility and who's having it by second birth, which race is depicted here in regards to women. As you know, our sisters, black women especially, are still around a couple more extra thousand than men. Technical notes. Okay. Birth, second and third. First birth is 18,000. Second, 6. Third, 5,000. Okay. And around, if you look at the age, the average benchmarker age group for birth is roughly 25 through 44. Okay. Okay, let's go down. So from what I'm seeing, what Mr. Sperling and BJ Agmore when it said that extra 1.2 million births from the sisters, it looks like this data actually holds up on that. And since we know that there are more of them than us, and it's actually proven evident that when it talks about black men are not impregnating a lot of women out here like they keep pushing out here on social media and YouTube. From what I'm looking at, this is just only a 7-year-old data from I think it's from the CDC. Yeah. So that's something to examine. So now, what I'm about to do, and I'll probably put this in the description for those that want to read this personally. I'm going to put the invite. I'm going to look at one more article, but I'm just going to put the invite now for those that want to come up. All right. I could probably look at one more article. and no one else want to come up, I could probably conclude this. All right, where's this article? I'm trying to find it, people. Snuggles. I'll do you one better. I'll put one in the description. Right now I want to go for one more article. If I go through this and I have extra time, I'll put the links for those right now. That's in this chat room right now, so y'all can look at this for yourselves. All right, last article. In-depth struggles of parenting biracial children in a society that mostly sees or just sees black and white. Being biracial can be difficult in a society that oftentimes just sees black and whites, but being a parent to multi-ethnic children also has its challenges. Many parents of biracial children said strangers have questioned them about if their children are actually theirs. Okay. And that's something to really ponder on, because let's be honest. Once black people intermingles with non-black people, you're not going to have a combination of 50-50. You might have other or more white, depending on the mixture. Trust me, I've seen certain black men that have procreated with non-black women, and their children don't look, on the average, look like partially half like them. Some of them look pretty much damn near white. And I have seen it happen. So when people talk about this one drop rule, I am convinced, and this is just me, that it's a status just to keep certain wealth of our people. Because they know which children are coming through certain wombs or certain files of people. That's why you have a box that shows what race you are, and you must check it accordingly, because they want a litmus test to see who's who. But anyway, that's needed here or there. Let's keep going. The ABC Action News in Depth reports Anthony Hill spoke with several parents who have biracial children about their unique experience in society and how people implicate bias about how a family should look affects them in everyday life. The last time Pew Research Center conducted a survey of numbers of multi-ethnic babies was back in 2015, and they found that the number of biracial babies had tripled between 1980 and 2015. That's a period of 35 years. Wow. That's a big jump. Richard King is the father of a biracial daughter named Zoe. He said one evening he called for a pizza to be delivered to his home, and when the delivery person saw his children in the background, he called the police. What a fucking idiot. Anyway, here's an exception of the 911 call. And he calls. I'm gonna do the 911. Who's this? Hello? Is this 911? Yes, what do you want? I have a semi-emergency. I believe I delivered a pizza that address, and when he opened the door, he stuffed. I got kind of nervous, like I saw, or like I said, it was a white man with like 4 African American kids, and that not normal with nobody else in the house, or would say nobody else is in the house. That doesn't really happen that much. Sir, are you calling us for this bullshit? Please hang up the phone. No calls again. Thank you. I just add that. No, don't worry. I just add that. Don't worry about that. Anyway, I was numb. I was shocked. I was hurt. I was like, why? Said King. King said police showed up and aggressively knocked on his door. Zoe, was holding on to my leg, and the officer had seen it. And I said, Zoe, everything's okay. And she said, yeah, daddy. And I said, you see my daughter? She's not crying. Nothing is wrong with her. He said, this isn't the first time he had the police called on him by someone who assumes his children couldn't possibly be his. I also got the police call on me at Fort Del Soto Park one time. The time King said he was playing with his girlfriend's children, who are not biracial, but who he said he claimed as his own because he helped raise them from the time they were babies. There was a lady jogger walking by and had seen me out there playing with my two daughters. Okay. He said the jogger called the police on him, and when the police arrived, they surround him with a line of invasive questions, putting the onus on him to prove he was their guardian. Boy, the insanity, man. I know it's funny, isn't it? Queen of Virtue, it's ridiculous. Man. I don't know if I want to keep reading this, man. This is some weirdness, man. But anyway, I gotta keep reading. I gotta stay focused. Focus like a lighting. All right. Okay. Turkey Greensbury is a therapist therapist at Dearly Love Counseling, and he said being a parent to biracial or multi-ethnic children can be psychologically damaging due to people's constant questioning if your children are actually yours. Now, mind you, Queen of Virtue, see if you can relate to me, because I know you're somewhere in the South. Do you notice or see any children from either a black man or black woman that has mixed children, and their children don't look nowhere close to them, but look more like the non-black side of things, the white side of things? Have you ever seen it where you're from, Queen of Virtue? As she answers, I'm going to keep reading. I would say that the feeling of inadequacy would be present, of feeling that I will never be able to fully play the time of the other nationalities or heritage or cultures that the kids is, said Greensbury. Greensbury knows this firsthand because his son are multi-ethnic. Okay. I could never be expected to be Hispanic as much as I love the culture. I'm not Hispanic. My son is. I'm not, and so that is a lot of pressure if someone made me feel that I had to keep up his Hispanic culture and heritage. Interesting. Very interesting. All right, I see your comment. I'm going to read it in a second, Queen. Greensbury wife, Winley Greensbury, is also multi-ethnic, and she said her mother is sometimes questioned if she is her children's biological grandmother. My mom, being fair-skinned Puerto Rican, she's been mistaken like that, not her grandson. She the nanny, and she like, no, I'm the grandmother. And she had like the reaction of when she speaks Spanish to our oldest, because our oldest is dark complexion. People are like, he speaks Spanish, said Wendell. Oh, you didn't know dark skin or blacker skin people could speak Spanish? You did not know that? Oh, what a small world this person is in if he's gotten a rude awakening to find out. Tisk it. Oh well. To find out why society tends to put people into rigid boxes, ABC Action News in-depth reports Anthony Hill spoke with a professor of sociology who says people want to understand things in the simplest way possible. But by doing that, it doesn't allow us to see the Nuance. Let me check my badges here. Okay, no one came up. Okay. Humans' desires to understand the world requires us to come up with categories because we have to put things into boxes to understand what it is, and we create communities. So when you create communities, that implies an us, but it also implies a them, said Dr. Chantel Buggs, professor of sociology and African American studies at Florida State University. As for Richard King, he said he advised parents of multi ethnic children to continue to love them no matter what and to not allow outside influence to define them as parents. I want to teach her right and wrong. I don't want to teach her color. I don't want to teach her color because we're all the same, man. We are all here for the same thing. Be happy. Don't worry. Be happy. Yeah. Don't worry. Be happy. Not in your dreams. Whoever wrote that. But let's continue. Dr. Buggs say one of the ways to understand families we perceive as different is to question our own implicity bias. Essentially asking ourselves, why do we hold the option and perspective we have about families who who may look different than ours? And that ends the article. Yeah. And like I said, I've seen it done. I've seen it multiple times to certain black men that do have children outside their race. Their children don't look nowhere of the 50-50. Their children look mostly white. Same thing when I see some sisters that have children with non-black men and it comes out more white than everything else. But let's look at the comment section now. Let's see what's going on here. In the comment section, and let me see if you answer my question, Queen of Virtue. Down here, they usually look more like the white parent, in my opinion. And they do, Queen of Virtue. And let me tell you why. Because when it comes to us and them, and one reason why that is, in my opinion, why when we go outside the race and procreate, the children are going to look more like the so-called enemy, oppressor, or what label you want to call them nowadays. It's going to look like them. For the sure reason is because majority of black people, men and women, have been, inseminated through, sexual abuse and mix up, particularly women, back in days of enslavement. And the outcome is we get roughly 18 or close to 20% European in us. So, and most people that don't do their genealogy or their ancestry DNA or how much white you have, you always got to pay attention to that because usually that always determine if you procreate outside your race. Most likely, the children that you produce with non-black people will eventually come out white if you're 75 or lower. I'm not sure why that bot's there. Hold on. Queen, can you take care of that thing that can you sniper that please? That's in the chat room. I gave you the green light. So that's how I see it. Because let's be honest, we're not producing black people when we go outside race as a whole, as people, especially in America. That's not happening. And most Caucasian men knew this. That's why they made a conscious effort to push it more on our community now for the last almost 20 years. I've seen billboards now of non black men with black women. And they know that they got to accelerate this misogynation and this absorption in America. And the reason why they have to increase that is because they need to have what we want to see as the 2050 environment of Americans. They want a official melting pot, a pie, and a mixture of tan Caucasoids here in America. While they import more non-blacks, they want to inject and absorb more blacks. See how that works? Inject and absorb more blackness to have a partial tan. A partial tan. Because if you look at blacks are non-blacks, you're going to have something less tan. Some might have tans, but most majority are not. Look at Brittany Renner. Look at Amber Rose. And I question Amber Rose because no one has ever seen a picture of both her parents. Have y'all noticed that? Who else I can name? Who else that comes up in my mind? I don't know if you can name a few people that's in the chat room. People that are coming from Admixer. Look at the Tia Tamara. They're a byproduct of miscegenation by black mother and white man. And they got roughly nearly almost 50% black, 49% at best. So they are actually half and half. And you could tell off the bat they do look partially white with some admixer. Which I didn't know that. I watched them back in the 90s when they were so popular and famous at that time. I know that these women that I see that were byproduct of miscegenation until I look into more about them 15, 20 years later. Well, it makes sense because let's be honest, there's a lot of people that look light skinned and they might be in these communities that have a different racial parent, and you won't know until you ask. But it lets you know that other groups of people don't accept mixed race people as a whole. They will probably use them, but overall they do not accept them. That's why what community can they live or go? They have to come back to the black community. Unfortunately, they have to come back to the black community because this is the only community that accepts pretty much everything. You know, and I don't like to say that, but it is what it is. Let me see what's going on here. Okay. Okay. All right. So now I'm looking at this, looking at more of this. Let's look. I'm gonna look up the chat room now. I'm gonna scroll up, see what's going on. I'm not sure if you still hear Shatter or anybody else. I'll probably drop the link one more time if anybody has any thoughts and opinions of today's stream. I mean, I've said a lot. I read a lot. To be fair, honest, and I've looked at it closely, and I will have to agree with the elder and Mr. Sperling. Yeah, there is an extra 1.2 million babies that's coming from our community from the sisters, and we never question where these children come from because a lot of these men they're not having kids like that, especially in our community. And what the word on the street is, there's a lot of sisters that is messing around and divesting outside this community and having babies by other groups of men, and these group of men are not marrying these women, unfortunately. So when I hear about this word, and I remember I'm married, and I did a broadcast earlier today, and I might find that clip and separate it for y'all to listen. But in my opinion, when people tell me say they're divesting, that means they want nothing to do with blackness. Period. I have to agree with Mary Brown. They want nothing to do with your black skin, whatever is black, this culture, black, this nonsense. They want to escape it as much as possible and get away from it as much as possible. Because being black in the West or this Western culture really does hurt. I'm just going through some things, guys. I'm just looking at some things, guys. Maybe I should put Discord. Nah, I ain't gonna put Discord. Y'all know where to find the Discord link. Queen Virtue, do you use Discord? That's in the chat right now. Let me know. So as you know, the data, when I look at it overall, an issue with data because certain data should be updated now. Any data that has passed almost approached 10 years and has been updated is always questionable. But I know when it comes to us as a community, as people, especially when it deals with women, that use data today as a weapon towards the men of the community, just to point fingers so we go by nana boo boo, but nothing has really been accomplished and nothing really progressive goes for after that, either if the data is true or not. And this could apply for either side. Oh, you don't know what that is? Okay. Let me show you something. Since you don't know what a Discord is, Queen of Virtue. All right, it's learning time, people. This is the after hour edition now, so now I'm probably gonna go into teaching mode. Let me pull up Discord. And let me exit. As it loads up, please like the stream, share the stream as well. I might just timestamp this a little bit so wait make it easy for people. This is a Discord. Let me show you my Discord. Okay, let me show you now. This is Discord, Queen Virtue. This is Discord. It's like a private server, chat room communicator. People communicate, chat, go back and forth on Discord. This is what it is, as you can see. And I'll do you something better. Hold on. My fault. This is Discord. I'm gonna put it here, and you might not be able to get on it because you never know about it or create it, but that's what Discord is. As Discord server. It has many features. As you know, this is the Chaos Reign Discord server. As you can tell, I have regular chat, private chat, and open chat room. You can do many things with Discord. You get me? That's Discord. So you don't know what it is, you know now. Hope this is helpful. Let me stop sharing. So still trying to grow the Discord. I might create some other channels in Discord, but right now I'm just getting the flow of things with Discord again. Kind of use it much, and I think it's time to use it now again for better use. Now, be honest, it's actually kind of better than Twitter. The problem with Twitter, you just tweet something and it's more for the public, for everybody to see. Discord is more of a private session. It's more of a, how you gonna say it? It's like a private meeting. It's like the secret society type stupidness. That's what Discord is. You get me? That's what Discord is used for and designed. You can play games on Discord. You could communicate. It's just like any other application. You get me? It's more interactive when you want to go there. You could do more things with Discord, and it's much more easy. I mean, if you want to know more, you know what I'm saying, you know where to contact me, through Facebook. You know, send me Queen of Virtue. I hope that answered that question. So overall, in wrapping up this, yes, I do believe and agree that there are more children that's being produced from our lovely ladies. Unfortunately, for the little small numbers, and it's probably more. But is it a good or bad thing? Well, that depends because women are always going to have the easy access to sex, and they have the higher possibility of having children with sex from either man, either from a black man or non-black man. Now, is the direction of what most men should think about, especially black men, is what you really gonna do now that if you are interacting with the opposite sex. 9/10 of the time, if she already has kids, you always gotta look at that kid cold-heartedly and think, is this child birthed by a black man or non-black man? And are you gonna play stepdaddy for these, mixed children, the bastard children, for lack of better words? That's something you have to think about. Now, I heard and had discussion about this, about it's no big deal, it's no problem dealing with raising other men's kids. I mean, that's your decision if you're a man that has kids. But men that don't have kids, I mean, they're gonna have to probably think about that. The way how this community is acting and going. Let's be honest, fellas. The only thing you do have in regards, if you feel that these ladies need a sense of consequence, is you don't be involved at all. You walk away and you keep moving on, move on with your business. Look at what real consequence you're gonna give the sisters or the lovely ladies. Let's be honest. You're not really giving no serious consequence. And you know this. So the second best thing is, just move on. Don't bother interact with them. And maybe you might not have to really give them sex. You might have to be extreme if you really want to put a foot and get a different outcome amongst this community we reside in. Because let's be honest, black people are going to do what they're going to do, regardless. It is what it is. It's the nature of people. Accept it. And know what to do accordingly as a man. So, before I wrap up, and let me look one more time in this comment section. I'm not sure. I'll let you know. I'll hit you up after the show. All right, Queen of Virtue. I'll let you know. Now, one thing. I did a broadcast with Professor Black or Dr. Black in regards to what you bring to the table. I'm going to soon have that broadcast, and it will be on my channel. And one thing I'm going to give you an insider is that doing that topic is very much problematic because I'm convinced, and I normally don't really say this, but in my opinion, from what I view, I would say most women today do not bring enough much to the table besides WAP. And they have proven it evidently when any man of any significance or any means has asked this question. And this question has been going on for years now. And that is fine. But the problem is, the results of any woman that only brings that. You don't get much nothing in the short term and long term if that's what you only bring and that's what you're telling majority of men in your group and outside your group. So I want you ladies to really think and analyze really what you really bring to anything. And it has to be more than just pussy. But I'm gonna lead you to think on that. But be on the lookout for that broadcast. But that's all I have to say. I'd like to thank everybody for listening and joining and hearing this broadcast. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, the red button, and the top bell for notifications for uploads and for live streams here on the Chaos Reign channel. Also, please follow me on Twitter at Chaos Reign 7. And you can now add me as a friend on Facebook, Eric Rain on Facebook. And obviously, I have a Discord. Join my Discord. I'm hoping to grow so I could be more interactive over in Discord. So all the information will be maybe in the description of this stream. And if you don't see it in the description, look in the About section on the Chaos Rain channel. But that's all I have for you. So, like always, thank you for listening. And you know where to find me. Let it chaos rain.